Superintendent for Virginia's Newport News School District has lost his job, less than 3 weeks after one of his teachers was shot by her first grade student.
Effective February 1st, 2023, Dr. Parker will be relieved of his duties as superintendent of Newport News Public Schools.
This follows the resignation of the Rich Neck Elementary School assistant principal. An attorney for Abigail Zwerner, the teacher who was shot, says her client will file a lawsuit, saying the school ignored multiple warnings the day of the shooting that the 6-year-old had a gun.
What did administrators do? Did administrators call the police? No. Did administrators lock down the school? No. Did the administrators evacuate the building? No. Did they confront the student? No.
Zwerner's attorney laying out a timeline of the day. Just after 11 a.m., Zwerner herself told an administrator the first grader threatened to beat up another student.
They didn't remove the student from the classroom. The school administration failed to act.
At 12:30, according to the attorney, another teacher reported she searched the boy's book bag looking for a gun and believed he may have put it in his pocket and taken it outside to recess.
The administrator downplayed the report from the teacher and the possibility of a gun, saying, and I quote, "Well, he has little pockets."
Shortly after 1, Zwerner's attorney says a teacher reported that a student said the 6-year-old showed him the gun and threatened to use it. Finally, a fourth employee asked to search the boy, but was told to wait for the day to end. Zwerner was shot roughly an hour later, seriously wounded in her hand and chest, but still managed to escort about 20 students out of her class to safety.
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, G11, and we got a little something to talk about today. Now, that clip you guys just saw was from back in January when a 6-year-old opened fire on his teacher up in Virginia here, actually, and was quite interesting the way it went down, right? Just as you saw from the clip, the teacher tried to notify the administration to do something about it, right? Because she's like, yo, this kid has a gun. She ended up getting shot. Thankfully, she survived, but I'm not sure what became of the kid because of the age of the child, right? That's probably under wraps. However, the question at the time, so this was back in January of this year, the question became, well, should the parent be charged in this situation? Because how in the does a 6-year-old get a gun to take to school? Right now, most responsible firearms users are going to have their weapons locked up, right? I have no issue with parents teaching their children how to use firearms, right? For self-defense. Cool. Happens all the time. They teach them how to use it responsibly and they secure the weapons when they're in their home. But in this case, the weapon was not secure. Let's jump ahead to today. I got an article to share with you guys. Okay, yep, I got the article courtesy of the New York Post. Mother of 6-year-old who shot teacher in Virginia gets 2 years in prison for child neglect. Right? Remember, that was the question. Like, should the parent be charged in the case, like if they have a young child, right? For neglect in this case, right? The mother of 6-year-old boy who shot and critically injured his first grade teacher. Now, this is wild, right? This is not first grade problems, right? These are little kids, 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, right? They're just, you know, they got the pre-K kindergarten. They're learning how to talk and write sentences and cursive and all that stuff. This is not a problem that a first grade teacher should have to deal with. But here we are, right? He critically injured his first grade teacher at a Virginia school in January. Right? The mom has been sentenced to 2 years in prison for child neglect, a judge ruled on Friday. Deja Taylor, so this is the mother, Deja Taylor's son swiped his mom's gun from her purse and used it to shoot his 25-year-old teacher, Abigail Zwerner. Hopefully I didn't butcher her name too bad. At Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News on January 6th. That's not that far from here. With Taylor's handgun that he swiped from her purse. So this is how they got the neglect piece, right? Because she did not control the firearm in the presence of a kid, right? The 26-year-old mother's state sentence handed down Friday by Circuit Judge Christopher Papile is harsher than state guidelines recommend and significantly longer than the 6-month sentencing recommendation agreed by prosecutors and Taylor's lawyers when she entered the plea deal. Taylor's son, now 7, is being cared for by his great-grandfather. The family's attorney, James Ellenson, told NBC News. The mothers allowed supervised contact with their son at the discretion of the great grandfather. So that's a picture of Miss Taylor. It looks like maybe it was her lawyer there. Yeah, Taylor in November was already sentenced to 21 months in federal prison for using marijuana while owning a firearm in connection to the case, which made headlines across the country. I think Virginia is one of those states where marijuana is not yet legal, right? Still legal here. Taylor's son told investigators he got his mother's 9mm handgun by climbing onto a drawer to reach the top of a dresser where the firearm was hidden in his mom's purse. He stuffed the weapon in his backpack and then shot his teacher in front of the first grade class. And this is what this little monster said. Pay attention. You know there's not a man in his life. He said, "I did it. I shot that bitch dead." Wow. The pint-sized pistol packer bragged to a staffer restraining him afterwards, according to court documents. "I got my mom's gun last night." Taylor initially told investigators she had secured her gun with a trigger lock, but investigators said they never found one, right? She pleaded guilty earlier this year to the felony neglect charge. As part of that plea deal, local prosecutors agreed to drop a misdemeanor count of recklessly storing a firearm. Taylor has also pleaded guilty to the federal marijuana charge after a search warrant of her home revealed nearly an ounce of marijuana and drug paraphernalia, which means there's probably just other stuff there, probably stuff used to roll it up, or maybe other drugs, whatever. James Ellison, one of Taylor's attorneys, said earlier this year there were mitigating circumstances surrounding the shooting, including Taylor's miscarriages and postpartum depression. Okay, so now we're using a sympathy factor as the try to lower her sentence or what have you. What that got to do with securing your firearm so your 6-year-old child doesn't do something reckless, or your 6-year-old monster, I should say. He's 7 now. The mother also has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. What the fuck does that mean? A condition sharing symptoms of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, according to the court documents. So let me ask you, the audience, a question. Do you think, now this is where it gets iffy, do you think someone with this type of mental instability, let's call it, and mental disorders, because that's what they are, they're mental disorders, do you think someone with all this going on should own a firearm? Regardless, I know it's protection, we have our rights, all that stuff, but this is an unstable individual, right? I'm all for firearm and gun rights, but this, by all accounts, is an unstable individual we're talking about. Obviously, the father is not in the kid's life. It's just her, the great grandfather's taking care of the kid now. This is not a great situation. And now you have a situation where she didn't secure the firearm properly. The kid goes and shoots his teacher. Thank God she lived. Now, here's what she said. In May, Taylor told ABC's Good Morning America that she feels responsible and apologized to the teacher. Oh, apologizing isn't going to get the bullet out her chest. "That is my son, so I am, as a parent, obviously willing to take responsibility for him because he can't take responsibility for himself," Taylor said in the interview. Wow. Look at that good white woman there. That was the teacher. First grade teacher, man. I know she'll never see school the same now. PTSD is a real thing. During her federal sentencing last month in the marijuana case, Taylor's attorney read a statement in which she said she would feel remorse for the rest of her life. Taylor's son fired a single shot, striking Zwermer in the left hand and the upper chest, shattering bones and puncturing a lung. Fuck, man. So in the left hand. So I'm assuming she probably tried to stop him and had like her hand out like that. And the 9mm probably went through her hand into her chest where it rested, right? Because from the video that we watched, it was still there. I don't know if it's still there now, but they probably got it out and probably broke a rib. I don't know, somewhere. Well, if it landed in the lung, it had to probably bypass that rib cage some type of way, right? That's crazy how much damage one bullet can do. Meanwhile, so while she was getting shot by this monster, she rushed her other students out of the classroom before she collapsed in the school's office and lost consciousness. Wow. Zwermer spent nearly 2 weeks recovering in the hospital and has undergone 5 surgeries to restore motion to her left hand. She struggles to put on her clothes or tie shoes. She has filed a $40 million lawsuit against the Newport News Public Schools for, $40 million, alleging administrators ignored multiple warnings that the boy had a gun. She told the federal judge she has lost a sense of herself and suffered massive financial loss. Right, because teachers, especially like middle school or lower school teachers, grade school, they don't make a whole lot of money to begin with. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're under average earners, most of them. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. So here's the thing, in my opinion, this highlights a couple different issues, this article we went through, right? One, you have a neglectful mother with several mental disorders who probably shouldn't own a firearm, right? I don't know what's going on in her life, right? She's going to be in prison for the next 2 years, but like that, we really need to consider allowing folks with all that type of stuff going on to own firearms. Self-defense is real, I get it, but this was set up for disaster in my opinion. Two, that little monster of a son of hers, right? He didn't sound very remorseful at all, right? And here's the thing, I talked about in my other video how kids are not stupid, right? Even though he was 6, he clearly, and from what I read, right, and they didn't say his name or anything because he's a kid, it sounded like he clearly understood what the objective was, right? He said he shot that bee dead. What kind of 6-year-old talks like that, right? That he had to have seen that in his life, in his surroundings, some type of way. Clearly his dad's not in his life, because that would not be a thing in my household, right? And then you have a school system, right, based on that first video, where the teacher is like, yo, kid has a gun. This is not, he has an actual firearm. We need to lock some shit down. And the school system failed this teacher. Now, granted, even amongst all that, she still managed to save all the other students, because we don't know what he would have done, right? He's 6-year-old. He understood what he was doing, but at the same time, he might not have the faculty to know, okay, let me stop, right? He might have gone on a little Fortnite rampage. You know, kids would get online and they play GTA and Fortnite and all that stuff, and they just, you know what I mean? The mindset of this kid. So a couple different issues here. I'm glad that, for one, I'm glad the teacher did survive, and I hope she's successful in her lawsuit, because I mean, they failed her. Two, the mother rightfully accepted responsibility for what was going on with her kids, so I can appreciate that. We got to call it for what it is, right? She did say it's her fault. Granted, she said she put a trigger lock on it, but needless to say, when you have a firearm and you have kids, you need to make sure you're securing this stuff in a way that they can't get it. You need to separate the firearm from the ammunition. That's like basic, right? You don't just, some people leave like one live round in there just in case they need to pop one off real quick, but typically you want to separate the ammunition and the firearm. In the event that someone who's not you gets to it, they can't just easily utilize it like that, right? And then the school system, really, man, I think they fired whomever was in charge at the time, but they really got to get some better protocols. You know, it's not a thing that first graders typically have to deal with, grade school teachers, but in the world that we live in right now, you can't count anything past anybody. That's just the way it is. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let's get the conversation started. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Until then, I'm out of here.